What's up, guys? Today I'm jumping on to tackle a very common question I'm getting in my DMs and comments, and that is, Amanda, what is your view on all these new weight loss shots? If you're new around here, my name is Amanda Nybert. I'm a registered dietitian. I have been working in the field of weight loss for the past 2 decades. And there's a lot of buzz going on about the effectiveness, the safety, and the long-term success of these new weight loss shots that we're seeing on the market. I'm specifically talking about GLP-1 inhibitors. You may know them as Ozempic, Wegovy, Manjaro, all kind of known as Semaglutide. So like I said, you guys have been reaching out wanting my opinion on this subject for a good 6 to 12 months. And I've really been hesitant to say anything about it for kind of 2 main reasons. Number one, 12 months ago, I really didn't know much about the mechanisms of how these shots work. I didn't know a lot about the science behind them. And while I'm always, very weary of quick fixes and things like that, I didn't want to give like my gut reaction or just my initial thoughts without really doing my research. So for the past 6 months, I've been looking at the data, looking at the science, I'm hearing personal testimonies, and I do feel like I'm in a better place to comment on this entire subject. In addition, as someone who's been working in the field of weight loss for the past 2 decades, I have a lot of empathy for how hard optimizing your health is. And I never want to discredit someone for kind of potentially using any routes necessary to optimize their health when it's done in a safe and effective way. I do believe that there is no one diet that works for everybody. There's no one exercise plan. There's no one specific path that's going to fit everyone's needs. At the end of the day, what is going to work best for you is exactly that. It is the habits, it is the lifestyle that you are able to stay consistent with, whether that be low carb eating, keto, vegan, strength training, cardio, blah, blah, blah. It really becomes a very personalized issue. So I don't want to discredit anyone for taking potentially whatever means possible to reach that optimal health. I do believe that there is one specific path that, regardless of the modality or, the regimen that you pick, that everyone has to be focused on, and that is lifestyle changes. That is optimizing your sleep, increasing your daily activity, adding lean muscle mass, optimizing protein, improving your stress, all of those things. I believe that any modality that you choose is going to be less effective, especially in the long run, if lifestyle changes are not addressed. GLP-1 inhibitors are a glucagon-like peptide, and the way that they promote weight loss is basically by addressing your appetite in multiple different ways. This specific impact on your overall appetite helps you eat less. And so really the main mechanism in which these types of medications are working is that it's helping people to be in a caloric deficit, potentially in a little bit of a more effortless way. So what's happening in the body when you take these medications? Number one, it delays stomach emptying. So that means that your food is going to stay in your stomach a lot longer. You're going to fill up on less food and you're going to stay full a lot longer. Number two, there is this insulin component. These drugs make you more insulin sensitive, improving your blood sugar regulation. And when our blood sugar is better balanced, we're able to burn fat more effortlessly than we are when our blood sugar is out of control. And then the third mechanism is that it definitely has a huge impact on your overall appetite and hunger signals. A lot of patients report not feeling hungry at all. There is, very few thoughts of food. A lot of people report a significant reduction in binge eating, if that's something that you deal with. So at the end of the day, these medications help you to lose weight because they cause you to be in a significant caloric deficit, and they cause you to improve your overall blood sugar management. Now, I think it's important for me to state that could you do this on your own? Could you get the same results without these medications? Absolutely, you could. It is possible to eat in a caloric deficit for weight loss, and it is possible to eat in a way and build muscle and improve your overall health and wellness to improve your blood sugar regulation. The difference is that this medication makes it a lot easier to do those two things. So that's how the medication works, and obviously the benefits in regards to taking it. There are definitely some side effects and maybe some risks that you want to be aware of if you're taking this drug. I have more long-term concerns that I want to address at the end of this video, but specifically, most people will report some sort of GI discomfort, nausea, stomach cramping, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, when they're taking these medications. There's even a small risk of your increased risk of getting pancreatitis, having gallbladder issues. And for some people, especially people with a family history or a personal history of thyroid cancer, an elevated risk of that as well. Now, I'm sure you guys all know someone on these medications, and the results are, out of this world. People are shedding a lot of weight while they are using these medications. And it's very tempting to want to jump on the bandwagon and grab these for your own use as well. But I want to kind of dive into what are my concerns that I want to make sure that you guys are aware of when it comes to the long-term use of these types of medications and the long-term ability for you to sustain the results that you've achieved while on the medications. Number one, I think it's very clear, the science shows it. Semaglutide, which is the main component of all of these drugs, has even put out research on this and the fact that this is not a short-term fix. These medications are extremely successful while you are taking them. The data shows that if you stop taking them, you have a very high risk of gaining back at least 2/3 of the weight that you lost, if not all the weight, if not more of the weight. So I think it's important for people to realize that this is not, at this point, this is not something that you're going to take for 6 weeks or 6 months and then come off of it and sustain your results. That is not the pattern that we're seeing. Typically, when people come off of these medications, everything that the medication was doing to help you stay in a caloric deficit and improve your blood sugar management goes away. Okay, so you don't have that delayed stomach emptying. So now you can eat more food and you become hungrier more often. You don't have that insulin sensitivity, that increased insulin sensitivity. Now, I'm not going to say that you're going to revert back to, full-blown insulin resistance, but again, you don't have that mechanism that's helping your blood sugar be managed beyond, lifestyle changes in food. And last, absolutely, all the head hunger, all the thoughts of food, all those, thoughts of binging, if that was something that you deal with, come back. So when you stop the medication, it's hard for you to stay in that caloric deficit in order to sustain your results because you just don't have the help in which the medication was giving you. So before you start this medication, you definitely want to make sure that you see yourself using this in the long run, or at least until more data comes out in terms of a better exit strategy or a better maintenance dose in the long run. Now, here's my concern with that, because many of you might be saying, sign me up. I will take this shot every week for the rest of my life. I don't care. And I get that. But my concerns are, number one, this medication is extremely expensive out of pocket. I've seen anywhere from $200 to $900 a month. And if you're forced to pay for that every single month, that could eventually be a hardship for you. Now, again, if you're, a celebrity with, millions of dollars, $900 a month is just a drop in the bucket. But for most people, that type of financial obligation on a monthly basis is is not ideal. Now, many of you may be saying, oh, well, I'm good. My insurance pays for it. But here's my concern with that. Yes, insurance is covering this medication for people that meet specific criteria. Typically, you have to have a BMI of 30 or above, or you have to have a BMI of 27 or above with 2 significant comorbidities. Most of these drugs are labeled to help treat diabetes, obviously, specifically type 2 diabetes, obviously because of this mechanisms of the insulin sensitivity and weight loss, because we know weight loss is going to improve your overall diabetic health. So you may be saying, I meet that criteria, my insurance covers it. But my concern is that over time, as you lose weight and your health improves, you will potentially get to a point where you don't meet that criteria. And then your insurance can come back and say, well, you no longer meet the criteria for this medication. Therefore, we are no longer going to cover it. And then you are then responsible for figuring out a way to pay for this medication on your own. Number 2, and probably the thing that concerns me the most, is all the data and research coming out looking at, and there's not a lot, okay? There's not a lot because a lot of people are not looking at this specific marker, but there have been a handful of people that are. And basically what they're looking at is how are these people, as they're losing weight, improving their overall metabolic health? And what that means is when you lose 20 pounds, are you losing 18 pounds of fat and 2 pounds of lean muscle mass, which is going to result in improving your metabolic health? Or are we losing just as much fat as we are lean muscle? And what the data is showing is that the weight loss that these people are seeing, or people on these medications, is upwards to 40% of lean muscle mass loss. And that is very scary. And I want to tell you why. Your lean muscle mass is your absolute metabolic powerhouse. As we age, as we get older, as we lose weight, our number one priority has to be focusing on sustaining or growing our lean muscle mass. And I think that this is the difference between someone who's focused on weight loss, all they care about is the number on the scale going down, versus someone that's focused on fat loss. And fat loss is what I focus on, and what I really try to get my clients in my signature program, Lean, Living Energized and Nourished, to realize that it's not all about the number on the scale going down. It's really about improving your body composition and making sure that when we are losing weight, the majority of it is coming from your fat stores. Now, when you're in a weight loss phase, it is impossible to think that you're going to lose 100% fat. All right. Some of it will always be lean muscle mass, but we want that to be the smallest percentage possible. We want the bulk of your weight loss to be coming from your fat stores. And again, when we're seeing people that are losing 40% of their lean muscle mass, it concerns me for a lot of reasons, because basically you are losing weight at the expense of your overall metabolic rate. And I want to give you kind of the scenario that I see over and over. And this relates to anybody who's, done kind of crash diets, yo-yo dieting, where you lose and you gain and you lose and you gain. So when let's say you lose 20 pounds. Okay. So when we're looking at this model, in terms of, 40% coming from your lean muscle mass, that means that in general, I don't know the exact math off the top of my head, but I'm going to say that, 12 pounds is coming from your fat store and 8 pounds is coming from your lean muscle mass. Okay. That is overall going to reduce your metabolic rate, reduce your BMR, the amount of calories that you burn at rest, because of the fact that a big chunk of that is your lean muscle mass. Now, let's say you get to a point in your journey where you start to regain the weight, okay? Maybe you can no longer afford the medication. Maybe the side effects are too harsh for you to deal with. Maybe, again, anything comes up where you have to stop the medication, you don't have the mechanisms in place that are helping you stay in a caloric deficit, so you begin to eat more. And typically, it's not like you go from eating 1,000 calories to eating, 3,000 calories. It's typically you go from eating 1,000 calories to eating 1,400 calories, and you start to see weight gain because you have lost weight at the detriment of your overall metabolic rate. Now, when you start to regain the weight, here's the problem, okay? You don't regain 12 pounds of fat and 8 pounds of muscle. We wish. What happens is you end up gaining 20 pounds of fat. And this is really important to understand. Again, in anyone's weight loss journey, lean muscle mass is so incredibly hard to build, okay? So number one, we always have to be super hyper focused on sustaining our current lean muscle mass, because we know as we age, it will decline, okay? Number two, again, looking at your ability to build lean muscle mass, like I said, is a very challenging thing. You can't build lean muscle mass, or it is nearly impossible, very, very hard to build lean muscle mass in a caloric deficit. So when you're on these medications and you're eating in such a caloric deficit, you can't be expecting your body to be building lean muscle mass as you're losing fat, because there's just not enough calories in order to do that. So this is why, again, when you lose 20 pounds and 8 of it is your lean muscle mass, and then you gain back 20 pounds, you gain back 20 pounds of fat, what happens is now your new metabolic rate at your old weight is lower than when you started in the first place. So those are really my two major concerns. I feel like that people are jumping into this weight loss option. Number one, not necessarily for medical reasons. I definitely think that these types of options can be really powerful, and potentially the benefits outweigh the risk when you have a BMI of over 30 and you've got type 2 diabetes, all of those things. But when you're using this more for a vanity reason, you want to shed that last 15, 20, 25, 30 pounds, it worries me that people are jumping into these options without kind of knowing the full picture. And they're jumping into these options without understanding what that means in the long run. They're just seeing the kind of glamour of the really fast weight loss, but they're not considering what is it going to take in order to sustain this progress for the rest of my life. So those are kind of my two main concerns that I want to make sure that you guys realize if this is a option that you're considering. Number one, right now, it is not considered a short-term fix. It needs to be seen as a long-term solution, and meaning that, it works while you're on the medication. It doesn't work while you're off. Number two, if you are choosing to use this medication, you need to be hyper-focused about how you're losing weight. And I think because the medications make you have no hunger, you feel so full, on top of some very unpleasant side effects like nausea, stomach cramping, things like that, it's really hard to really do the things that you need to do in order to prevent that lean muscle mass. But if this is something that you're like, I don't care, Amanda, I'm ready to dive in, then here are my tips that I would give my clients if they chose this route in order to potentially have the best outcome possible. So number one, be hyper focused on your body composition. I would say before starting this drug, get a DEXA scan, get a body composition analysis of some sort. Determine what your current lean muscle mass is in relation to your percent body fat. And as you are going through this weight loss journey, check up on that, okay? Revisit those numbers. Make sure that you're not gonna be one of those people that is seeing a 40%, that's seeing, with regards to the weight they lose, 40% coming from their lean muscle mass. You don't wanna do that. So get a body composition analysis. I love a DEXA scan, and monitor that throughout your progress. Now, how are you going to prevent the loss of lean muscle mass? Two things: protein and strength training. Okay, so optimizing protein. Again, if you follow me, you know that I scream that from the rooftops across the board, because again, as we age, we just lose lean muscle mass. And one of the biggest reasons why we see a reduction in lean muscle mass simply with age is because typically our protein intake decreases as we age. And what a lot of people don't realize is that our protein needs actually increase with age. So as we get older, we need more protein in our daily diet than we did when we were younger. So the first thing I would focus on is find every means possible to hit your protein goal. And 50 to 60 grams a day is not going to cut it. Almost everybody needs at least 100 grams of protein a day. I typically encourage my clients to consider their protein goal at about 75% of their current weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you probably need 150 grams of protein. But the leaner you are, the closer you get to your goal weight, the closer your protein needs are to your actual weight. So you're probably going to have to drink some protein shakes. You're probably going to have to eat when you don't want to. But hitting that protein goal on a daily basis is one way that you could lessen the loss of lean muscle mass. The other way is through strength training. And you may be saying, well, Amanda, you just told me I can't build muscle in a caloric deficit. And that's correct. You are not strength training in a caloric deficit in order to build muscle. You are strength training in a caloric deficit in order to try to sustain your muscle. All right. So anything that's going to help sustain the amount of muscle that you have. And those are really going to be my two key things that I would say to strongly consider if you're going to go on this medication in terms of weight loss. The last thing that I would consider before starting is, what is your exit plan? Okay. How do you plan to exit off this medication? And your exit plan may be, I'm just gonna keep taking it because that's what the science says I need to do in order to lose weight and sustain my progress. And that's fine, just again, making sure you're considering those financial obligations. And then again, also GLP-1 inhibitors, they're not necessarily new. They've been around for quite some time. We've been using those to treat diabetes for a while. They're just indication for weight loss has really just kind of popped up over the last couple of years. But with any type of medication, there is always a point where we don't know the long-term effects in terms of, can this be taken for the next 40 to 50 years? We can use fen-phen as a strong example of that. So something to consider. Number two is, again, and associated with your exit strategy, what are you going to do in the long run to sustain your results? I will say I have seen some personal testimonies of where people are attempting, I don't think that there's a lot of literature or data or science on it, but they're attempting to kind of titrate their dose back down, because how these medications work is you have to titrate your dose up. There is this kind of, what am I going to say? Adaption of these medications. It's, I would say, similar to like alcohol. Like eventually the body adapts and you don't get the same benefits. Like you don't get the same suppression of hunger. You don't get the same, like the delaying of the stomach emptying. So you have to go up a dose. And so a lot of times people have to go, have to titrate their dose up in order to see, kind of these significant results. And what I've seen some people do is that once they reach their goal weight, and guys, I would pick a healthy goal weight, all right? I've seen some of you walking around, specifically in my town, and y'all look scary. Like if I didn't know that this weight loss shot was around, I would think you had cancer because you look so malnourished and skinny. And that's what you are. I mean, in order to be rail thin, you basically have just starved yourself. People look, again, they're calling it like the Ozempic face or the sunken face. You can tell they've lost a lot of muscle mass. They're very thin in an unhealthy way. Don't get that. Don't do that, guys. Yes, these drugs can unfortunately take you there, but the long-term harm of that that's a whole nother video. So again, once you reach a healthy weight, consider potentially working with your practitioner, titrating down to see if you can maintain maybe at a lower dose. So that's my hot take on these new weight loss shots. Again, I commend any person that takes any effort to address their health and wellness. And while I'm definitely skeptical of these types of weight loss shots in terms of their long-term success and how people will be able to sustain that, I have no judgment and against people that are choosing to do this route. But I would caution you that this is a dangerous route, in my opinion, for someone with very little weight to lose, because I think that the risks definitely outweigh the benefits in terms of the potential damage that you can do to your overall metabolic rate and your ability to sustain the results without coming off this medication. So things to consider. So maybe now you're second guessing, do I want to dive into this kind of long-term rabbit hole? Or maybe you're already on these medications, but some of the things that I brought up do concern you, and you want to make sure that you optimize your weight loss in the right way. I'm your girl, okay? Again, I'm a registered dietitian. My signature program is called Lean. It stands for Living Energized and Nourished. And we know at the end of the day, lifestyle change is going to be extremely important regardless if you take these weight loss shots or not. And that's really what we focus on in Lean. I know you guys know what to do. What I do is help you do it. And I think what sets my program apart from every other program out there is the daily support and accountability, the 24/7 access and support that we give you throughout your journey in Lean or in the monthly membership. Because that's the hard part, guys. Creating consistent habits is where the struggle is. You know, a lot of us can do the work for a short period of time, but for whatever reason, we fall off track. And I am here to help you stay on track or get back on track. So if you want to learn about macro management, how to optimize your protein, how to improve your metabolism without weight loss medication, or even if you're on it, how to build muscle, how to, improve your blood sugar regulation, improve your overall health markers, whatever it may be, I'm your girl, and Lean is the program for you. The amount of the education that you're going to get behind the whys of these strategies is really off the chart. And then again, that daily support and accountability that's going to help you commit to making these part of your daily routine most of the time. Because you know me, I'm all about progress, not perfection. So if you want to learn more about my signature program or working with me, jump over to my website, amandaneibert.com. For a ton more information. And I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your experience if you're on these medications or you were, any additional questions that you may have. Again, I'm a registered dietitian. I'm not a physician. This is not medical advice. This is just kind of like my take on what I've learned over the last 6 to 12 months, researching and learning more about these medications and seeing personal testimonies of people that have been on them or are currently on them. And I'm always open and always willing to learn more. And as I learn more, I will share more. So be sure to subscribe to my page here on YouTube so you never miss a beat. Talk to you soon.